Ever meet someone so naturally good at something that it kind of makes you sick just thinking about it? Well, that's a sorcerer for you. Hey fellow Game Masters, I'm Richard Quiner, and welcome back to the Daily D20, your daily dose of all things tabletop role-playing games, helping you build your world and master your game. If you like what you see on the channel, I of course invite you to subscribe so you can get notified when I upload videos every day. Now, it is Spell Slinging Saturday once again, which just means we need to talk about another class of Spell Slinger in the Dungeons & Dragons lore. So today we're talking about Sorcerers. Now, the Sorcerer Magic comes from a different source than any of the previously talked about spellcasters. They don't get it from reading books, they don't get it from a pact with a higher being, and they don't get it from their deity. They just get it from being born. That's right, the Sorcerer Magic is actually just an innate ability that they have. It usually stems from some part in their bloodline being mixed with something maybe like a dragon or a giant or some other divine thing, but no one really knows at what point that happens. So it's just kind of this natural spellcasting ability that people just get. From a character perspective, you will want to have Charisma be your highest ability score, since that is your magic ability score that you're going to use for all your spellcasting. An interesting thing about this innate magic is that it wants to be used. A sorcerer in the world of Dungeons & Dragons wouldn't be able to go their whole life without experiencing the magic and trying to control it for themselves. And because of that, most often sorcerers just go out and become adventurers and join adventure parties just like your own. Now, if you're playing a sorcerer class, you're still of course relying on spells and spell slots and spell levels. Just like all the others, you do have to deal with level 1 spell slots, level 2, etc. Similar to a wizard, except as a sorcerer, you don't need a spell book because your magic and your spellcasting ability just comes from your raw willpower. As a sorcerer, you have a limited set of known spells that you learn, and as you level up, you gain more and more spells, and also after a long rest, you're able to swap out one of your known spells for a new one. But it's just one spell per long rest, so don't waste it by picking a bad spell. What really sets these sorcerers apart from other spellcasting classes is that they have a special mechanic in the game called sorcery points. Now, sorcery points are kind of a currency that a sorcerer acquires just by existing. At level 2, they have 2 sorcery points, and by the time they hit level 20, they have 20 sorcery points at their disposal. Now, what can you do with these sorcery points? Well, it's actually really cool. First off, you can exchange your sorcery points for spell slots. If you find yourself in a combat situation or at any time just needing an extra spell slot, you can actually exchange your sorcery points for an extra spell slot by using a bonus action. Of course, the higher the spell slot you want to get, the more sorcery points you're going to have to spend, and this exchange tops out at level 5 spell slots. Though you'll never be able to get yourself a new level 9 spell slot later on in the game, it is still helpful to be able to pop open an extra level 5 spell slot whenever you need it. In addition to exchanging sorcery points for new spell slots, you can also exchange your sorcery points for what's called meta magic. Now, these meta magics are basically an alteration to an existing spell, and there are several of them that we will go over, and each of them costs just a little bit different, and they all perform different things. And as a sorcerer, at first you get access to just a few, but the higher level you get access to more and more meta magic. So, what are some of these meta magics? First off, there's one called Careful. If you cast a spell carefully, you can actually spend 1 sorcery point in order to have several creatures in your area of effect spell not have to do a saving throw against the potential damage. This is really good in a combat situation when you need to throw, we'll say, a fireball in the middle of a group and your party members are too close and they would be affected by it. You would be able to target your party members and say they don't have to save for this, they're already protected. The distant meta magic also costs 1 sorcery point, and with it you can change the range of a spell. If the spell range is just touch, like if you have to touch something, you can change that range up to 30 feet. If the spell range is naturally 5 feet or more, that spell range doubles. If you want to cast a spell that is empowered, you can exchange 1 of your sorcery points, and in turn you'll be able to re-roll a couple of the damage die from the spell you've cast. Now, the amount of damage die depends on your charisma ability modifier, so like I said before, crank up your ability score and you'll be able to roll more damage die. This is a good thing if you happen to cast a spell and it's just a little too low damage for what you need. you can re-roll them for a chance to get more damage on your target. If you want to cast a spell and use the Meta Magic Extended, it will cost you 1 sorcery point, but in exchange you will double the length of the duration of any of the spells you've cast if the natural duration is over 1 minute. Now, the Meta Magic Heightened actually costs 3 sorcery points, but what this does is when you cast a spell on a creature that requires a saving throw, that creature will have to roll that first saving throw at a disadvantage, which means they'll have to roll their d20 twice and take the lower of the 2 numbers. The Meta Magic Quickened costs 2 sorcery points, but it allows you to take a spell that would normally take a full action to cast and cast it as a bonus action. By using the Subtle Meta Magic, you're able to cast your spell without using the verbal or somatic components, meaning you don't have to say or move, you can just cast a spell, which is really good when you're trying to be sneaky. And the last of the Meta Magics is called Twinned. Now, to twin a spell, you have to spend the amount of sorcery points that is equal to the spell's level, and that will essentially double up the spell's effect. But there are some limitations. First off, the eligible spell can only be targeting one creature or target, and that one creature or target cannot be yourself. It has to be something or someone else. Then, after the spell has been twinned, the second casting of the spell has to target a new creature. It cannot target the same creature you had before. Unfortunately, for the length of time of this video, I can't get into bloodlines and how those affect sorcerers in different ways, but I will be doing more videos on those as I'm learning and going through those myself. So keep an eye out for more videos on sorcerers' bloodlines. Now, the question of the day is, what of those cool meta magic sounds more useful to you, and in what scenario would you use them in a game if you were a sorcerer? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. I would really appreciate that. Also, subscribe to the channel so you can know when I upload new videos every day. And that, fellow Game Masters, is the Sorcerer Spell Slinging class in a nutshell. I've been Richard Quiner. Thank you for watching.